Yeah, I was sweating in the summer, thinking fuck it's really coming. I mean something like a number.
Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today I'm making a review of the Huawei P40 Lite that I have recently unboxed. And if you want to watch the unboxing video too, you can just click up there on the banner and you're going to be led straight to that video. Anyway, without wasting any time, let's dive straight into this video. And the first thing that we're going to talk about is the design. So the Huawei P40 Lite that I'm currently using is in midnight black, and to be honest, I really love this color. Another thing that I love about this design of this cell phone is of course the camera setup. This symmetric camera setup makes this cell phone really beautiful. Although another thing that I hate is the plastic bag and the plastic frame, but it's understandable at this price segment. And also you have a glass front, and it's actually a really strong glass front, because my P30 Lite doesn't even have a screen protector, but it has been fine and well. It doesn't have a simple crack on the screen, and it's almost 2 years now. It can house 2 SIM cards. And when it comes to storage, you have an internal storage of 128 gigabytes. You have also 6 gigabytes of RAM, and you have UFS 2.1 version of transferring data. Then you also have nano memory that you can up to 256 gigabytes, and it uses the shared SIM card slot. Then you have the power button that you can also use as the fingerprint sensor. And I must say the placement of it is really convenient for actually people with small hands. It's really convenient. You don't have to worry about anything. And it's even easier to put it. You have the old age 3.5mm headphone jack. Then you also have a USB Type-C charging port. Then you also have a single firing loudspeaker that is very loud. It also have a punch hole selfie camera. And this one, for me, I prefer this one compared to the water drop one. So the Huawei P40 Lite comes in with a 6.4 inches display that has an 83.5 screen to body ratio, and it's a type IPS LCD display. So that means it's not going to really be good at showing contrasty colors. For example, the deep blacks are not gonna be so good, and also highlights might be blown, but overall it's really a good display. So this cell phone has some bezels, obviously, for a smartphone on this segment, but the bezels that are on the smartphone are not really that much huge, and they're not going to disturb your viewing that much. You're not really going to realize them that much that they are there, and it's also expected of a cell phone on this segment. But they are really small because, as I said, it has an 83.5 screen to body ratio, and that's really good. The resolution on this smartphone on the display is a 1080 by 2310 versus the 1080 by 2312 on the Huawei P30 Lite. They leveled that down from that 2312 to 2310. It might be to save battery. As a matter of fact, the battery of the smartphone works very well, but I'm going to touch on that one in a second. The brightness on this smartphone is 460 nits, unfortunately, because in a really bright sunny day, you are really going to struggle looking at this smartphone's display unless you have an umbrella or you're in a place where there's a shadow. But unfortunately, that's what you get when you are going to buy a smartphone on this segment. It obviously comes with dark mode, and dark mode on this smartphone works perfectly because it comes with Android 10, and dark mode is a feature of Android 10. The smartphone also unfortunately does not come with a water resistant body, but I must say that it doesn't really get wet easily, because as you can see on the screen right now, it took a few drops, and just like my Huawei P30 Lite, it can take a few drops and it won't have any problem. But that doesn't mean just throw this cell phone in water and hope that later on rice will make the magic and your cell phone is going to be fine. You're not going to get your cell phone back if you treat it recklessly. Now let's talk about the security on this smartphone. So as I've already mentioned, there is a fingerprint sensor, and it is placed perfectly on the power button, and also you have facial recognition, which I don't really rely on, because unfortunately this is 2D facial recognition, not 3D, that is most likely more secure. But the most thing that I would advise you to do if you are owning the smartphone, just rely on the fingerprint sensor and you're going to be sorted. You also have smart unlock, which is also a feature of the Huawei P30 Lite. And if you are bothered that I'm always talking about P30 Lite, there is a review of the smartphone up there if you would like to go see that one too. But still, the most one that is reliable that I can tell you of is the fingerprint sensor. Moving on to the battery, this smartphone comes with a 4200 milliamps battery that is non-removable, obviously, and it supports Huawei's supercharge that comes at 40 watts. So this means in 30 minutes time you're going to have 70% of the battery, and in 64 minutes you're going to have full charge. This battery on a regular use can last up to at least 120 hours, and that's really impressive, unlike the battery that is on the Huawei P30 Lite. Now let's talk about the software of this smartphone, which is something that is really interesting. So on this smartphone you're still gonna have Android 10, but you are not going to have Google mobile services, which means there is no Play Store for you. So all the apps that you would download from a Play Store, you're not going to get them there. You're going to have to use third-party apps and APKs for you to be able to download and install those apps. What you have here, as I said, you have Android 10 and you also have EMUI 10, which is a user interface made by Huawei that is based on Android 10. You have a Kirin 810 chipset, and this one is one of the most powerful chipsets in the mid-range segment of smartphones, because as you can see here, you can easily play games, and the loading and the graphics, they are not struggling at all. And this game that I was currently playing here, it is huge in file size, and it also uses a lot of graphics. So for this chipset and also this whole smartphone to be able to play it so smoothly, it really means that it's really a good and powerful mid-range smartphone. Now let's talk about the cameras. Firstly, starting with the rear cameras. You have a quad camera set up on the smartphone, and you also have a punch hole selfie camera on the front. Focusing on the rear cameras, the first camera that you have, which is the main camera, is the 40 megapixels wide sensor that also allows you to shoot in high resolution. And in high resolution, you are able to take pictures that are of 48 megapixels, which means you can have a lot of information and data for you to work on if you want to process your pictures. As you can see here, this picture is the picture straight from the camera, 48 megapixels, and this picture is now the picture that is now already edited, and I edited this picture through Adobe Lightroom Mobile. So as you can see, it gives you a lot of information, and the dynamic range is really good for a smartphone of this price. The following sensor is an 8 megapixels ultra wide sensor, followed by a 2 megapixels macro that works at 4 centimeters distance, and a 2 megapixels depth sensor. So the 8 megapixels ultra wide camera, the only downside with it is that when you go ultra wide, you lose some bit of saturation and vibrance on the pictures, but it's not as severe as in the P30 Lite. It's good, and the distortion is not that much compared to the P30 Lite, which is good because you don't have to go process the pictures and remove that distortion. But the only problem that you're gonna have a problem with is the contrast, is the saturation and the vibrance. Overall, it's working perfectly. The macro sensor, also the problem is the distance. If you are at 5 centimeters, it's not going to focus, and if you're at 3 centimeters, you are too close, it's not gonna focus. I don't know what you would like to do with those pictures, but if you're interested, it's something you can be able to work with. The depth sensor works really good, especially when it comes to making sure that there's enough bokeh, there's enough background blur, and making sure that there's a separation between the background and the subject that you're shooting. And it works perfectly also when it comes to taking portrait pictures, either portrait pictures of people, of anything that you want to shoot with portrait, and even also when you're just taking normal pictures. It works perfectly, and I'm really glad that they also added that. The videography of the rear cameras is a simple 1080p at 30 frames per second, and unfortunately that's the same thing you're going to get on the P30 Lite. So there's not really much of improvement when it comes to the resolution. But one thing that I can tell you is that a lot of videos that I took that are in this video now that you're watching were made with the camera of the P30 Lite. So I just want you to know that it's really a capable camera, and now that it's on the P40 Lite with the Kirin 810 7nm chipset, that means you're gonna get even better result when it comes to your camera. Now let's talk about the selfie camera. So one thing that I want you to understand is that this is a Chinese smartphone. So the majority of Chinese camera sensors is that they make things lighter. But the selfie camera here is really good. It's a 16 megapixel selfie camera, and it works really good, because if you're looking at these pictures now, you can see that the highlights are not really that much blown, but obviously the shadows are really too soft for my liking. And also you can see that it kind of flushes my face, which is not good, because I don't want to look cute in pictures. I want to look realistic. So it also shoots in HDR, and when it comes to videography, it allows you to also shoot 1080 at 30 frames per second videos, but it's not good videos at all. But it's good for video calls and all that. Lastly, let's talk about the price. So if you want to buy this smartphone on a contract because you cannot manage to pay cash, you are really going to have a problem. Why? Because some companies, for example like Vodacom, they can sell you this smartphone for 7,200 rands if it's on contract. But if you're going, for example, to take a lot, you can get this smartphone for as little as 5,500 rands. And I'm gonna put the links down in the description below for you to go check that out. But overall, this is a really cheap and a good deal for a smartphone with these features and also this capability. It's really good. So that's gonna be it for today's video, and if you liked this video, please leave a thumbs up on it and share it on towards, and I'm really going to appreciate that. I hope to see you once again in the following video. Peace.
About our country sentiments and private feeling. Got us picking up a Humvee, no respect to climate ceilings. Hit our head on every morning, no consenting in no yielding simpletons. They call me corny, but it won't be in our fields when it's too high. Nah, ain't nobody coming for us.